Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Maker's Bar podcast. My guest today is Guy Siman, co-founder of SensArs. Guy, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us here on Maker's Bar.
It's a pleasure, Rob. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's start with this right here. Tell me about your early career and how you got to do what you're doing today.
All right. Well, it's been kind of a journey, but I've always been drawn to the medical field. Actually, starting 30 years ago, when I was a medic in the Army, giving me kind of firsthand experience in patient care. So, in the university, naturally, I went to study biomechanical engineering or medical engineering, leading me quite naturally to the healthcare or medtech industry. And initially, I started off in the ophthalmology field, developing a implantable miniature telescope for people that are legally blind or have advanced age macular degeneration. So in those early days, you take a product and it reaches a patient and you see the effect that it has on people that suddenly their vision is restored. So that's quite an eye opener, if I can use that term.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my journey took me to a company called Nixoa, developing a novel nerve stimulator or hypoglossal nerve stimulator for people suffering from obstructive sleep apnea. And there I led the company's growth from its early days all the way to European commercialization, many steps along the way, many ups and downs of development and manufacturing and clinical activities, etc. So all the way to market approval in Europe and IPO readiness. And from there, shortly stopping at indigo diabetes, a field that is very near and dear to me, as I will probably elaborate in soon. But eventually reaching SensArs, where I found my true mission and helping prevent devastating complications of diabetes called diabetic neuropathy.
So what does your company do and what are the main product lines?
Yeah, so our mission is to reduce the 400,000 amputations that occur every year in Europe and the United States due to these complications of diabetic neuropathy. So the thing is with diabetic neuropathies, the major complication is losing sensation in your feet. And while it seems kind of benign or not that important, these people don't feel anything that's happening in their feet if it's excessive pressure when they're walking or undersized shoe or even a small pebble inside the shoe that suddenly eats into their foot and that leads to infections and quickly into ulcers. And ulcers deteriorate to amputation. In fact, this is the leading cause today for amputation in the world. Every 20 to 30 seconds, a portion of the limb is being cut around the world.
Wow.
So that's quite devastating. And what we do at SensArs is we've developed Sensi, or the sensing system, which is the first and only device in the world that restores natural sensation to the feet of diabetic neuropathy patients. And we do that by inserting tiny micro wires, thinner than human hair, implanting it into the sciatic nerve, so mid-thigh level. And by stimulating the sensory fibers inside the nerve, we restore the connection or the communication between the foot and the brain.
Wow.
And by doing that, the protective sensation is restored to the patient, thereby enabling the patient to prevent the risk of that cascade or the vicious cycle leading to amputation.
Wow. This is actually happened to my brother.
Really?
Yeah, with his right foot. They cut off all his toes.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it hits home here.
it hits home, and you know, it hits home many times when I speak to people, even Uber drivers or any person that's sitting next to me on the flight. It touches everybody. It's so prevalent that it's scary, to be honest.
Yeah,
And
that's some
the
amazing
barrier is that
technology.
there's no real solution out there today. So we're excited to bring this to the people.
So, what were the significant challenges you faced in the initial stages of your business, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, well, you can imagine that with any novel or innovation, there are many challenges. But in our case, the initial challenge, I would say, was finding the right use case to this technology in general, which was crucial. Initially, we focused on pain treatment because pain is, the largest market for neuromodulation, and we got amazing response or positive feedback from doctors and KOLs. But we also found some setbacks, primarily in the referral pathway of patients. So patients suffering from pain are not naturally referred to surgeons, but rather to pain specialists. And we need surgeons to implant our system. So there we kind of hit a wall, and we pivoted and decided to focus exclusively on diabetic neuropathy, or primarily, I would say, on diabetic neuropathy, targeting patients with sensory loss, because that's also our secret sauce or our sweet spot, where we can provide the solution for reducing the risk of ulcers and amputations. And
Wow.
we've done that pivot. The traction has been incredible. So, maybe a takeaway message from this is that there is a fine balance between staying focused as the founder, as a leader of the company, and falling in love with your mission, but also keeping an open and flexible mind, right? So you need to recognize a moment where you need to say to yourself, okay, let's rock the boat a bit to get something new and better.
What has been your most satisfying moment in business so far?
Well, happy to say that there have been numerous experiences, or more than a few satisfying moments in my career in general, and because that's eventually what drives you. And in my earlier career, it was mostly related to feedback, of satisfied patients or satisfied clinicians or surgeons from and seeing the impact that you have from your technology. But if I have to choose something really recent, developing something and then, in our case, implanting it in animal studies and receiving or seeing the selectivity or the effect of stimulating certain fibers within the nerve, that was kind of mind-boggling. And also to see the reaction from the surgeons was quite satisfying.
Wow. What are the key values your company represents, and how do you ensure that they're upheld?
Well, I think this is maybe not unique only to SensArs, but transparency and commitment are the core values at SensArs, and we believe that great things are only or primarily achieved through dedication and strong relationship. We also build on trust between ourselves and honesty, and all this blend creates this collaborative business environment that are the values that we put ahead of us each day. Without it, it doesn't work. Simply been there, done that. It doesn't work.
How do you define success for yourself and for your business?
Well, eventually it needs to reach the patient and change their lives. There is no other formula for this success.
Yeah.
But in order to survive in this business, because reaching that success is so far away, you need to break it up into minor successes in order to enjoy the process. So you need to build a solid business case and expand your network as you grow the team, meet new interesting people along the way, and learn from each milestone. So each milestone that you get, whether it's securing new IP or fundraising, closing a round, each of these milestones is worth celebrating. So
Yeah.
cherish those small ones before you get to the patients and to the market, of course.
Very good advice. So how do you handle adversity and doubt?
Wow, good question. Um, well, first of all, I think going back to what I mentioned about values, you need to make sure that you don't have a blame culture in your company. Okay, so no finger pointing or anything like that. You need to, in case there's any adversity or things don't align internally, then you need to sit down, analyze what happened, learn from it, and focus how to improve moving forward. So, positive work environment is key to ensure continuous positive progress.
Yeah. Where I work, we have 8-step problem solving instead of finger pointing. So
Eight step.
it's
Okay.
a good model to copy off of. Can you share a failure that later became a success or a valuable lesson?
Yes, there were many, so I need to choose, right? I mean, if
Yeah,
you don't fail, you don't succeed.
that's right.
Well, I think one of the lessons, maybe I'll talk about lessons. One of the lessons I've learned is to learn how to release. You say in Israel, to release, and by that I mean that when a company grows, you need to acknowledge the fact that you cannot and should not do everything, right? In the early days, you roll up your sleeve, you do everything, you go crazy. Now, as you grow, you need to be able to release, to delegate, and to trust others, and that they will do as well, or probably even better than you,
Yeah,
hopefully. And it took a while for me to learn this. Came with a personal cost as well, but I want to believe that I know better now. So I would say this is a valuable lesson for anybody that is overseeing a growth of a company,
yeah,
to release.
yeah. I mean, you found your own company and you have the ways you want to do it, and eventually you get so big, you have to let someone else do it. That is probably pretty hard.
It is. It is.
Okay, how do you foster innovation and creativity within your organization?
We keep up to date. We constantly make sure that we're up to date. We read scientific literature regularly. We attend conferences. We stay connected to industry experts and industry leaders. And also, what we like to do is kind of that off-site meetings where you hold brainstorm sessions and you go wild. You challenge you challenge ideas and you bring new things to the table and see if it's something that you can introduce or include in your roadmap. If it matches your end game and your eventual mission and target and vision, and you try to include that. So keeping an open mind and not locking yourself in anything too early.
So, with that said, what is your long term vision for the company?
Well, so as I mentioned before, we aim to reduce the number of amputations globally, but what we're doing here, if I go longer term, is a true paradigm shift. Now, I don't mean that as a cliche, but it's true. It's a paradigm shift in the world of neuromodulation, that because we are going inside a nerve, we can actually go inside almost any peripheral nerve or any major nerve. So our dream is to be able to treat endless additional indications by accessing additional nerves, such as, for example, the vagus nerve, the highway nerve, as I call it, for treating many other indications such as depression or obesity or even inflammation disorders. So, the future is very open for us because of the new technology that we're bringing to the table.
Can you describe the leadership style and or your leadership style and how you cultivate your team's culture?
Yes. So linking it to what I mentioned before about releasing and allowing to delegate, the leadership style that we are trying to instill here is one of independence and proactivity. So we encourage team members to take initiative. Sometimes that comes with a cost of early mistakes, but when it's done in good faith and with the proper intention, then it's not a problem. We learn from that and we iterate and we go quickly. But the leadership style, I would say, mostly is for being proactive, and fostering innovation in that sense.
How has your business evolved since you first started?
Um, well, I would say that the more you work, the more you learn, right, about how things work and what doesn't. And it goes to the example I gave before, that we try to iterate quickly. For example, the vision and mission, or the mission that we had before of treating pain, didn't work, so we had to pivot. So maybe the key takeaway here is to iterate quickly. If you need to fail, then fail fast. Learn from it, learn from it quickly, and correct your bearing. A startup, unlike larger companies, is like a speedboat, right? You can twist and turn quite quickly, but as long as you keep your bearing, if it's north, and it's north, if it's southwest, southwest, and you keep that bearing, you can make those adjustments as you go, but keep your heading towards the right direction. So our pivot to diabetic neuropathy was executed much faster than our initial use case, because we learned how to move quicker and move more efficiently as we progress with the company.
Can you tell me about a book, a mentor, or an event that significantly influenced your journey?
There is a good book that kind of always sits here in the back of my mind and kind of guides me. It's a book called From Good to Great. Maybe you heard of it, from Jim Collins, where it describes how companies transition from being good companies to great companies, such as Abbott and Gillette and major companies. But it analyzes them, and how or why other companies failed to make this transition. So one thing that captured me in those successful companies was the notion that the journey is like a bus ride, and in the beginning you're not sure where you need to go, but what you need to do is get the right people on the bus, put them in the right seats, get the wrong people off the bus,
Yeah.
and then you can start together thinking of how to get to something great. So in other words, make sure to start with the who and not with the what as a mindset. Okay. And I think that maybe that's one of the most challenging things about managing a company, leading a company, growing a company, is finding the right people, and that have the same DNA as you, that have the same mindset as you, not in entrepreneurially, but that are not toxic, and that foster the same culture that you want to instill in the company.
What do you think are the most critical skills for an entrepreneur? What are they need to succeed?
Well, I think directly continuing from your previous answer is surround
Yeah.
yourself with the right people, right? I mean, that's a critical skill. It's not an easy one, but it's critical for the success of the company. Whether, by the way, if it's mentors or colleagues or advisors or employees, you need to make sure that you have a proper circle around you that's constructive and not toxic. Another skill, I would say, or maybe feature, or is tenacity. There will be many, many ups and downs along the life cycle of a company, and you have to have quite thick skin and a strong belief system in the mission and vision of the company. You'll get whacked down many times. You'll hear a lot of no's, and you need to learn how to take it, to digest criticism when needed, or just let it wave off, to adapt, and just to find ways to keep the enthusiasm going as the company evolves. That's quite difficult. And the last thing I would say, maybe it's not a skill, but it's a critical aspect that is required to succeed, is family. I mean, you cannot be in this line of work if you don't have the proper backing of your family. In my case, my wife is so supportive and enabling that really there was no chance that I would get to where I am without her. So that's critical, I would say.
Yeah. Good answer. Okay. This is the final question.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We soared through it pretty quick.
Okay.
What advice would you give someone wanting to start their own company?
Wow. Well, get married right now.
You got to have a good wife or a
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
good family.
Well, no, I mean, of course, you need to have the right idea for the company, right? So try everything to disprove your idea. Okay, so challenge yourself, find others to challenge you early on, as early as possible. And if you come to a state where you fail to disprove your idea or your business plan, then you might be onto something, and that will require you to do a lot of validation. Go out, talk to the market, talk to the stakeholders, confirm the need of your solution. Don't fall in love with don't be the engineer, be the business man around it, to make sure that the solution, however exotic, however cool it may be, comes with a need, and then start executing. So there's a lot of fine print to that suggestion.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that there's somebody that would pay for it. You need to make sure that it matches the voice of customer, the user needs, whoever it may be. It can be, in my case, in our case, in our industry, it can be the patient, it can be the clinician, it can be the payer, the insurance agency, whoever it may be. Go out and do your validation. Talk to them, and see that you're developing what's right and what not what you like, essentially, or what's exotic. um, and and eventually add the layers that you need to make it either cool or differentiate. If it for example, you need to put some experience on your product, like gamification. Okay, make a game out of it, or if it needs to consist AI or anything like that, or make it simple, for example.
Yeah.
So that's additional layers that you can put on, but make sure that you have a fit to the market eventually.
All right. Is there anything else that you would like to add that maybe we haven't covered?
No, I think it was a good set of questions, I would say. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, I'm not the one that invented them, but they are good questions. Well, it's very interesting technology. I mean, this is
Yeah.
going to help a lot of people. So thank you for creating this company, and hopefully everything you're trying to do is successful, and you're able to help a lot of people.
I hope so. And well, if you hear of us, it'll be a good sign.
Oh, yeah. All right,
Thank you.
folks. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just saying thank you very much again.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Guy, for coming on Maker's Bar once again, and giving some of your time to us so we can learn about your story and your company. And thanks to everyone out there for tuning in to this episode of Maker's Bar. We'll see you next time.